Hello and welcome to A Few Minutes with Jonah. This is lesson number 2 and part number 1. I'm Buddy Pennington. I am pastor of Westville Assembly of God in Holmes County, Florida, and I'm the host for the study. I'm going to begin reading with verse number 1 of chapter 2, and we'll read down through verse number 4. Allow me to do that for you now. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from inside the fish. He said, I cried out to the Lord in my great trouble, and he answered me. I called to you from the land of the dead, and Lord, you heard me. You threw me into the ocean depths, and I sank down to the heart of the sea. The mighty waters engulfed me. I was buried beneath your wild and stormy waves. Then I said, O Lord, you have driven me from your presence, yet I will look once more toward your holy temple. In this part of the study, Jonah has run from the call of God, has been thrown off the ship during the great tempest, was swallowed by the great fish that God had prepared, and now Jonah is responding to his situation. He says that he cried to the Lord in his trouble, and God heard him. Now Jonah realized that his refusal to do what God wanted him to do was the cause of the storm. He also realized that he had placed other people in jeopardy because of his refusal from the consequences of that refusal. He encouraged the men to throw him into the sea. They did. The storm stopped. The great fish swallowed Jonah. And then Jonah was in that great fish for 3 days and 3 nights. During that time, he sought God. This is very much like the story of the prodigal son, in which the son demands his inheritance, leaves, and wastes his living on foolishness and wickedness, and then runs out of money at the beginning of a famine. The Bible tells us in that story that the prodigal son came to himself and realized that he needed to go back to his father's house as a servant, not as a son. In this case, Jonah has realized that he needs to point himself back to God. He realizes that what he has done is wrong. He calls out to God, and God brings an answer to him. And Jonah is at the point now in which he says, I'm going to put my face back toward the temple of God. He knows where his source of strength and help lie. He knows that God is the answer to his prayer. Sometimes whenever we fail to do what God wants us to do, we wind up in a situation like Jonah. We find ourselves in trials and tempests and storms of life, and only turning to God is the answer to our problems. We need to return to the Lord who has called us. I want to encourage you, if you have been running from God, stop. Return to God. Point your face back toward his holy mountain and worship him. It's our prayer that these studies will be a blessing to you. I encourage you to visit our Facebook page. It's Westville AG at 2513 Cypress Street. I also encourage you to share feeds to these lessons with your friends on your social medias. We are trying to touch as many people as possible, and the best way to do that is if you spread the word that these Bible studies exist. May God richly bless you until we get together next time for A Few Minutes with Jonah.